It was last year when my mother collapsed at her workplace. She was forced into a life of hospitalization, but my mother's condition improved. However, my brother hardly ever came to visit her. Even when he did visit, he only stayed for a few minutes, then left the hospital room as if fleeting. Although my mother laughed it off saying, "Your face looks scary, Robert," I felt that it was only natural to scold. My brother was smart, academically outstanding, and fair-skinned. In contrast, I was a tomboy with a lot of scratches. We were complete opposites, but we got along well, perhaps due to the 3-year age difference. In my memory, our mother worked from morning till night to raise us alone. That's because our father found another woman and left the house. Mother will be late again today. Instead of our late returning mother, Leon always cooked the meals. Our relationship changed about 10 years ago. That was when Leon got married. One day, I was introduced to my beautiful sister-in-law who announced, "We are having a baby." However, her personality was terrible. Single mothers are truly hard workers, aren't they? They seem to have to work tirelessly just to survive, don't they? Hey, don't make fun of mom. Gary! So, this is what they mean by a son raised in a single-parent household. Is this what they call a mama's boy? Despite of our first meeting, she said something like this. Why did my brother choose a woman like her? Is it because they had a child, so it couldn't be helped? After seeing off my brother and his wife, I asked my mother about sister-in-law. She only said, "Children need parents. I can't force them to divorce, they have a child." My mother probably came to that conclusion and chose not to say anything. But no matter how you look at it, that wife is not good. My feelings about this were confirmed. Sister-in-law, who often mocks single-parents' households, insists that her child who has both parents is happy. She blames my short temper on my mother and says things like, "It's a pity that although Leon turned out okay, he became a short-tempered." Full-mouth mama's boy, it's totally the influence of being raised by a single parent, isn't it? We talked about this before, Leon. You actually hated being in a single parent's household, didn't you? Yeah, that's right. At that exchange, my mind went blank. Thinking back, my brother never said anything, no matter what sister-in-law said to our mother. Are you taking her side? Tell me it's not true, Leon. I'm not taking her side. I too felt the same way. I was embarrassed by mom, and I hated being in a single-parent household. When I angrily grabbed Leon by the collar, mom told me to stop, but I didn't hear her voice. Hey, are you serious? Embarrassed. What the hell is that about? I hated walking next to mom, who always wore old clothes. Isn't that true? You. Enough. I was stopped again, and I lowered the fist I had raised. Sister-in-law's empty laughter echoed. This is so funny. Sorry, Robert, but don't make Leon join your mama's boy squad. He really hates being in a single-parent household. That day, I gave up on my brother. Get along, you're the only two brothers. Whenever she saw my face, mom would say that. I spent my days resenting my mother, who cared about my brother despite all the scorn. One day, I got a call from the hospital saying my mother was critically ill. I took a leave of absence and relayed the news to my brother. I'm going on a trip next week to Hawaii. That's troublesome. When I heard such a response from his smartphone, I couldn't believe my ears. A trip? What? No, it just so happened to coincide with my trip schedule. There will be a lot of preparation, like for the wake and the funeral. Are you serious? At the sound of my groaning voice, my brother fell silent for a while. It doesn't look like I can cancel the trip. My mother might die, and he's going on a trip in such a situation? Something snapped, and I shouted, Well, then enjoy your trip. That's fine. Even if something happens, I won't invite you to the funeral. And hang up. Frustrated, I started contacting the relatives. I explained, sarcastically, Our big brother is apparently going on a trip, so please ignore him. The incoming call from my brother was displayed on my smartphone. When I finished contacting everyone and returned from visiting our mother in the hospital. He probably intends to complain. Someone in the family must have spoken ill of him and snitched. I had no intention of listening to him seriously, so I decided to say what I wanted to say. Hey bro, remember how you laughed at mom for wearing old clothes? If it wasn't for your hospitalization costs, we could have lived well. You thought it was a shame, didn't you? Me? Hospitalized? There's a picture in the album of you lying in a bed I've never seen before. I asked mom about it, and she said you suddenly collapsed when you were 6 and were taken to the hospital. You had a rare disease, and they didn't even identify it from the symptoms. It seems like my brother was trying to remember the past, insisting it was a lie. Because of your rare disease, we had to admit you to a universal hospital. Even though we borrowed money from our relatives, it wasn't enough. Mom worked until she nearly broke down. When I was young, I was left with our relatives and heard about these events from them. It's so like mom, isn't it? She was told to dress a little better. But apparently, she said if she had money to buy clothes for herself, she'd rather spend it on her children. My brother seems to have forgotten not only about his hospitalization, but also about his illness. Mom had told me not to bring up painful memories, but at this point, I didn't feel the need to be considerate of my brother. Do you still have that photo? He asked in a suppressed voice, which was surprising. Since there were photos in mom's room, I decided to take a picture and send it to him, just for the heck of it. Little did I know, things would take a turn the next day. The next morning, on my way to the hospital, my phone vibrated. I answered without checking who it was, only to hear my sister-in-law say in disbelief, "Hey, what did you tell Leon?" Her usual condescending tone was gone, replaced by a palpable sense of irritation and urgency. It's absolutely ridiculous that he's suddenly canceling his trip. I was taken aback. According to my sister-in-law, who wouldn't stop talking, my brother declared this morning that he wouldn't go on a trip. When she screamed back at him, "Who's going to drive the rental car?" he simply responded, "Then I guess we'll have to cancel it." He seems to have left somewhere quickly after causing this ruckus. "You mother's boy, you must have said something." "Ah yes, well the mother boy you're talking about has an important task of visiting mom's sick room, so I'm going to hang up this pointless call." I politely rebuffed her and turned off the phone entirely. But there was an even more shocking sight waiting for me when I arrived at the hospital room. "What are you doing, brother?" My brother was on his knees on the cold hospital floor, sobbing. Thankfully, this wasn't a shared room. After a while, my brother seems to calm down from crying and began talking about what happened. Apparently, my photo triggered some memories. He realized that what I told him was true and remembered how terribly he had treated our mom. He came to the hospital room, apologized no matter what. Do you think everything will be forgiven just like that? It's too late. What a happy-go-lucky mindset he has. Even so, it's my right to make amends. While we were having this conversation, the hospital room door was roughly opened, and my sister-in-law came in, her face distorted with anger. "Leon, what are you doing sitting on the floor?" "He's prostrating himself to mom, isn't he?" "What? Just because he's a mama's boy? You're letting him do such a shameful thing. I won't forgive this." My sister-in-law tried to grab me, but my brother stopped her. "Shameful, you say? I'm prostrating myself out of my own will. Not only did I forget what mom did for me, but I also hurt her a lot. It's only natural that I apologize." "Huh? Even so, apologizing to a dying person who's unconscious by prostrating yourself is creepy. Until recently, you were saying that being a single mother is shameful. Are you out of your mind?" I was so taken aback by my brother standing up that I couldn't respond even though I wanted to shout back. "Let's go home. There are things I want to discuss." My brother said that to my sister-in-law, and they left the hospital room. Later that afternoon, my brother sent me a message saying, "I've decided to get a divorce." Everything was happening too fast for me to keep up. I've sorted things out despite everything. Looking at Leon, who was speaking as if nothing had happened, reminded me of how smart he has always been. He told me that he would explain the details in person, and since I hadn't had lunch yet, I suggested a nearby cafe. As Leon progressed through his meal, he explained the details. Apparently, the way his wife had acted in the hospital room was the deciding factor in the divorce. That seemed only natural. Anyone who could forgive someone for calling their heartfelt apology disgusting must be twisted. I was nodding along to what he was saying, when I almost spit out of my drink at the mention of neglect towards our son. Leon has a 10-year-old son named Michael. He's essentially a younger version of Leon, smart and quiet. When asked who he would choose to live with after the divorce, Michael apparently chose Leon immediately, saying, "Mom doesn't seem to want to raise me." His wife would give the son only the bare minimum of money, and instructed him to prepare his meals. Leon, a manager at a major company, has a demanding job and often travels for work, leaving the house frequently. Despite this, Leon regretted not realizing what was happening as a parent. He's a smart kid, and I wanted to enroll him in a cram school while he's still in elementary school. The money I gave for the cram school fees and living expenses was disappearing into luxury goods behind my back. Apparently, the wife would get violent with their son if he spoke up, and she wouldn't let him go. I discovered she was borrowing money from consumer finance companies, perhaps because the living expenses and tuition I provided were not enough. I confronted her with this truth, but she justified her action towards our son, saying, "You should be grateful that I am even playing a role of a mother for you. After all, you don't have to be called a single parent like you." I don't even know. Hearing my words, Leon let out a small laugh. I pulled my vibrating phone out of my pocket and said, "It's a call from that crazy one. Speak of the devil," and pressed the call button on speaker. "Leon, what the hell is going on? Moving companies suddenly arrived and they're hauling away our stuff. Michael is not even here." Sister-in-law was screaming on the phone. "Michael is at your parents' house right now. I bought that apartment a while back under my name, so I asked a friend to sell it. I will do as I please." "What?" "I've told the movers that they can throw away anything that isn't specified by me. You better hurry up and secure your stuff, or it'll be too late." "Why? If you could just send them to my parents' house." "I've told your parents about how you've treated Michael. They promised me that in exchange for seeing Michael, they won't have any more contact with you. They're going to cut ties with you." What are you talking about?" "Just to let you know, I've deposited the complete divorce papers and the oath with a lawyer. You'd better pay back the child support and the money you squandered without running away, or you'll be in trouble." "Wait a minute. I'll apologize to Michael too. It's so pitiful to be a single parent. Let's start over." "Michael said he'd be much more ashamed to have you as a mother. He said he doesn't mind being from a single-parent family." "Wait. You should make amends in your own way. I will also make amends." After hanging up the phone, Leon said, "That's basically the situation," and let out a small laugh with a sigh. "Man, that's scary. It's too well prepared." Leon and his wife divorce was finalized thereafter. I haven't asked about what happened to her afterwards. You can pretty much imagine what happens when a stay-at-home mom who had spent all her living and education expenses suddenly loses her home and source of money. The woman who used to play around all day now has no choice but to work from morning to night to survive, as she has to repay Leon and the debt she has with the consumer finance company. I wonder if we both wanted to celebrate Leon's divorce. Miraculously, my mother recovered. My mother told me about a series of events when my brother was bullied during his student years because he was from a single-parent family. When I think about how my brother felt when he was ridiculed by his classmates for seeing our mother in ragged clothes, I regret that I too made him feel ashamed. I should have cared more about my appearance. That's what my mother regretted. But even so, as a mama's boy, I can't easily forgive my brother. Still, my brother said he would make amends and made a deep bow, crying in front of my mother. The whole family knows what he did to our mother, and he's going to be under a lot of scrutiny from now on. He needs to correct the relationship with his son that he neglected as a father. It takes extraordinary efforts to regain trust once lost. If the two of you get along, that's all the happiness I need. Because my mother says that with a smile, I think maybe I could help my brother once in a while.